Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Seasons Ebb and Flow. I am Lee Wright, and I'm so glad you're here today. We have an amazing episode. I'm so excited about this one. I'm going to be interviewing Melissa Cahill, and she is going to be talking about reigniting your sexual energy in midlife and beyond, and how to bring that vitality back into your life from sexuality to other aspects related to hormones and all the different changes that happen to women in midlife, and kind of how that might link back into relationships, obviously. And so I think this conversation is going to be so enlightening. And I would like to turn it over to Melissa to tell us just a little bit about who she is and her background and how she got into this whole area.
Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm a licensed acupuncturist with a focus on nutrition, Eastern medicine. I also am a Vita sex and wellness coach. I really focus on sexual wellness for midlife women. Also
Mm.
trained and do biofeedback, help to retrain the nervous system. Also a mother of five, and also has a lot going on and really, figuring out the balance as our bodies change, and really just here to help navigate people with finding the right puzzle pieces that they need along the way, whether it's adrenal support or gut and digestion help, to really truly just finding all the puzzles to put together to really be the best version of yourself, and combining the Eastern medicine with the Western medicine together, also with emotional work and really calming the nervous system down. So really just kind of trying to help the women that you're in your 40s and your 50s, and you feel like your sex drive has disappeared, your body's betrayed you, and you're becoming foggy and you're a tired version of who you are, and just really here to tell people you're not broken, that you're in a powerful
Mm-hmm.
transition, and this transition is all about just getting the right puzzle pieces to help navigate it.
Awesome. I love it. And I think so many women can relate to so many of what the things that you listed. And people need help and just want information and guidance and support. So today's interview will be the beginning of that. And then at the end, we will talk a little bit about ways that you can get additional support. So to start, Melissa, how many women in midlife start to feel like their sex drive has just started to vanish? What is happening to desire and the whole combination there?
Absolutely. Let's get real with that topic, in the sense that the desire, it doesn't disappear. It is changing form right now. A lot of us, we're losing our spontaneity, the desire, all of a sudden we can get in the mood. As we transition into midlife, we turn into more of a yin season. And what does that mean? That means that we shift into a responsive desire. So that means you might not want sex, right and ready to go. You might need more of a sensual, connected state. Might need to work up into it. So the deeper truth, yes, our hormones are shifting. Our cortisol levels are spiking because they are connected, to our hormones, and our nervous systems are overloaded. So, our desires, they get buried under our exhaustion, under our stress, under our demands, under our shame, and and being disconnected with ourselves. But really,
Yes.
it's not broken. It's just
Yeah.
reroute things.
Yeah. Like basically, we have to adjust to our body's changes
Yep.
and the way we approach sex and life and our connection to ourselves has to adapt to all those changes that are happening with our bodies and recognize that changes doesn't mean bad. It's just adapting to how it's different today.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's really like our second puberty, and this is, as a woman, can last 4 to 15 years. And we don't talk about this puberty. And you think of adolescent puberty. So now, we get to make the rules this time. We're wiser, we know what we're doing. So now taking this, puberty, we have to retrain our brains back into the desire component, because we have been, you know, demands and stress and living in cortisol levels of go 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 go, and really the season of our lives are changing, and the changes are beautiful, but we just have to understand them and really understand all the different pieces to our systems so we can correct it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are working with a woman and she says, I have no libido, what's going on under the surface when we talk about that hormonally?
Yeah. Um, Love this question, right? Hormones. Obviously, right? We're having a cocktail of depleted hormones right now. Perimenopause, right? Menopause is one day. Perimenopause is what we are always usually referencing, right? The perimenopause is truly when our progesterone drops. And
Mhm.
that is the cascade of so many things. So learning the tools to really help that, and really knowing though that it's also testosterone and it's progesterone and it's the dopamine that is also flatlining, and elevated cortisol levels, and that the hormones are a symphony that they play together. And when one thing is off, whether it is trauma, blood sugar regulation that now changes as we get older because we have to eat differently,
Yeah,
sleep, stress, our desire shuts down. And
yeah.
so when you hear, I have no libido, what I, in my head, I'm always like, your body's overwhelmed and no one
Hmm.
taught you how to listen.
Yes.
And now it's time to listen. We're in the yin season. We're in the nourishing season. Our life changes. And really just learning to listen to what different tools you may need.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I have noticed for myself is I have begun to do so much more work of listening to my nervous system and working like throughout the day, noticing the second I start to spike in a little bit of elevated stress and
Mhm.
come back into my body and drop it down. And it's almost like brain retraining because I've never done it before, but I've noticed like a dramatic improvement. So when you were speaking, I was thinking, I wonder, so is there brain retraining for pleasure? I, that might sound a little crazy, but is that something that's real?
That is real. You hear neuroplasticity. People have brain traumas, and you can help to rewalk, retalk. And it also comes back to the pleasure component of our brain. And just by doing daily small moments to remind your brain that pleasure is safe.
Mm,
Nipple stimulation in the shower helps to reconnect the brain to the vagina. There's such a disconnect that happens with us. Breath work that wakes up your pelvic floor. Even like you said, just daily, when you just said just checking in with your nervous system, if you
hmm.
start to really do deep diaphragmatic breath, which is such a strong muscle in our body, it helps lift up your pelvic floor every time you breathe. You are doing pelvic work when you breathe. So it's even just the power of breath work helps to wake up our pelvic floor.
Mm,
With no goal. You know,
yes.
our sensory systems are truly, we go back to how to awaken our pleasures, how do we awaken is our senses. Our
Yeah.
senses are what tells our brain that we like this, that we enjoy this. The neuroplasticity is just like, when you rewire for anxiety, you could
Hmm.
arousal.
Yeah. So, a woman who feels a little shut down sexually,
Mhm.
for one, my first part of the question is, when you were listing some of the things you can do, like stimulation in the shower, just to connect different parts of your body, uh, immediately my brain jumps to so many of us have been societally trained to have so much shame or guilt for uh, even attempting or focusing on that. How do women get past some of that to actually let themselves explore?
Mm. I think for so long we've been in a masculine society of fast, quick orgasms. Women are performers. This is a physical aspect, and truly, when you start to do this shift into midlife, and you realize you demand a different language, and
Mhm.
really, truly, the yin language, which is slower, intuitive, it's sensual, it's body led. For
Yeah.
so much right now as women, we are in our minds. We have to do this. I have to get my son here. I have to do this. I have to be superwoman, and I have to make money and have dinner done. And that is all male energy.
Yeah.
So to go into the yin energy, it's slower. It's about being turned on, not performance. It's about connection, and it's about changing your talk with yourself of understanding that you're changing, and what does this look like for me. Uh,
Yeah.
we have to kind of learn our own erotic dialogue, and it means slowing down to really hear it and figure it out.
Yeah, I think and it's almost like two part. First, the relationship with yourself and letting yourself explore and learn to develop that slower, sensual connection with yourself. But then there has to be almost like an education and communication with your partner because having them come along on the journey with you to adapt to your body's new pace and needs and because they aren't living it and you've been able to maybe keep up with their masculine fast-paced uh dive right in the past, but now that's not working for you, so having to ask them to be open-minded and follow along and maybe let you lead a little bit so that they can ensure that the pleasure is mutual.
Yep. Yep. And understanding too that, this is also biologically changing.
Yeah.
We are making less estrogen, which means, our vaginal, our tissues are getting thinner, and that we need to do preventative care for all of this component. And that, part of the biological change is also our partner understanding, it's not all about penetration, it's about pleasure or sensation. And that will just lead to more and more. But it's also the partners very much understanding, really more through education too, that, that this is all shifts, and they have shifts as well. But yeah, the communication component, it helps when you can first communicate it to yourself, and how you like things now and how things are changing. Do you like, erotic thoughts in your head throughout the day like you were as a teenager? Because as a teenager, we had those thoughts, right? We just have
Yeah.
to retrain those. Once you get
Yeah.
those into you, it's just like riding a bike.
Right, right,
Gotta,
absolutely. It comes back. You just
yeah.
have to integrate it. And I think the challenge is when we are, back to back from thing to thing, because life just these
Mhm.
days is so busy. And as a mom, you wear so many hats. Um, I think many people forget the importance of making time to, a minute here, a minute there, to integrate that throughout the day so that there is that energy is accessible because it's been opened up throughout the day. It's not like at 9 at night you're supposed to open something up that has been shut down and not thought about for 72 hours and getting it to escalate from zero is so hard.
Yep, and just daily things, and continuous stuff. Just think, designing for desire. That's what I always say.
Mm.
What are your desires, and like how can you design little things throughout the day to keep that alive? Because the hormones that are released from pleasure is truly our medicine as we get old.
Mhm.
That is
Oh, interesting.
in a Chinese form our life chi, which is our energy force that it builds it pretty much as our spirit of our body. Um, Orgasms, pleasure, touch, even if it's not orgasms, even if it's a touch or a laugh or anything, is all stuff that helps to increase our chi. And
Yeah.
the number one strongest ways to increase our chi as women is through orgasm. Feel that,
Interesting.
you know, there's a yeah, our body is speaking and has the power within. Yeah, you don't need the 10-step protocol to do this. You need to get the tools to figure out what works for your body, because everyone's body is so different. Maybe someone has stress in their adrenals and they need adrenal health. Maybe someone is having more symptoms in the cognitive function and they need work there. So it's really just about the education component too, of figuring out what your body is all missing, but really truly understanding that pleasure is a key component to all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And diving a little deeper into vaginal health, because that's a topic that people don't really love talking about. Again, that shame pops up. But I know there are a lot of changes that happen, and can you just explain a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. The estrogen, the testosterone, they all play a part in keeping keeping you vibrant, keeping the blood flow. So it's kind of one of those things of like, your daily Kegels. The component is to help as your testosterone helps to build muscle mass, right? So as we're losing testosterone, we have to work on our muscle mass. It is the key, a big component to helping our testosterone, which for us is pelvic floor health, because
Mm,
that is all starting to loosen because the estrogen helps keep things tighter. So there's all these components of vaginal health, from the thinning of the, like we talked about, the vaginal walls, that leads to an increase in UTIs. And so there's and then also the pain and the vaginal dryness. When you head towards menopause, your vaginal pH becomes more alkaline, so it becomes a little bit too alkaline. So a lot of times there can be vaginal suppositories and things that you can do on daily, or vaginal dryness to help support all of that you can do to really help your health down there, because we do have shifts,
mm.
and there are tools and ways to help it.
So I just want to clarify. So by doing some of these exercises, it actually will stimulate the hormonal balance.
Yeah, yeah. Like just in general, testosterone. That's why like weight training. A lot of us go because our bodies are changing, right? We're gaining the weight, so a lot of us go into cardio mode instead of going into the proper nutrition mode. But also, actually, weight training is the key. Weight training is what helps build the testosterone component,
Yeah.
because we're losing so much muscle mass every year. But the testosterone is kind of like the unsung hero. It powers orgasm, sensitivity, confidence.
Mhm.
There's and the progesterone. The progesterone is our powerhouse. It's a powerhouse hormone because it's the one that drops first, but it stabilizes our mood. And
Mm,
a lot of times in the beginning, when we start to feel like we're losing, I call it the hormone veil, where we lose a little part of ourselves in the beginning, it usually is coming down to progesterone and not estrogen. And so that's a big component of understanding, the really, there's lots of, great ways to help with in helping with blood flow down there. There's lots of ways to help with the progesterone. So just kind of finding those ways, naturally, or, going to your doctor as well, of course, to,
yeah.
that they can help too.
So, and when you say, are there like hacks to improve lubrication, sensation, blood flow? When you say there are lots of things, what could you give me a few just ideas?
Yeah. So think of beets, nice and red, right? They are a key component to women as we get older. Nitric oxide, we make less of it, and it helps with the blood flow. So it's a big component. So nitric oxide supplement is huge. Putting beets in smoothies or drinks, if you do that. There's CBD
Mm,
creams out there down there that are helps with blood flow and nerve awakening. So you can do vaginal DHEAs, that helps with just kind of the hormone maker of it all. There's
right.
castor oils, or sea buckthorn oil. Oil internally. There's so orgasms. It's not just about climaxing. It's a full body event.
Hmm. So I that makes sense, of course, but can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Orgasm, it's a nervous system experience. It's not just a genital one. There's
Right.
breath, there's sound, there's movement. You can feel it through your spine, your heart, your hands. When we stop chasing to climax and really start cultivating energy and movement and sound and go into our senses, we
Mm,
full body orgasmic state, which is truly a place of healing for so many. And this is not fantasy. It's biology. Our
right. So, are there hacks for rewiring? I mean, many women or many people who go through divorce, for example, they might not have engaged in sex with another person for a long time, or they start to feel shut down or have so much fear of starting over. Are there hacks to kind of like rewire or open up that orgasm again and think about it differently, like you just said, as a full body experience?
Yes, absolutely. It really starts to with safety, is making sure your nervous system feels safe, and that you can calm and ground yourself. Breath work with pelvic focus is huge.
Mm,
Don't really connect, just any kind of hip movements. All of that helps with circulation, helps with also just
mm,
stimulating, the erotic sensation in your mind. Making sound during self touch. We were when we were all younger, we were silenced, a lot of times during sex, and realizing that there's more of a primal energy, an exchange that happens during sex, and
mm,
exploring new erogenous zones. Our clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings,
mm,
and we have millions more on our body. So it's not just one area of focus. It's in different parts, and it's changing as our hormones change. You can
mm,
do erotic journaling or fantasy play in your mind. Everyone has a different component. For me, it was really realizing that I was shut down in touch. I was a
mm,
mom. I went through a divorce too, and I forgot that touch was intimate. Touch wasn't just from my children. And my go-to, I did a 30-day pleasure challenge.
mm.
And I now pretty much do that almost a lot. I do it a lot. It's a commitment to a movement of pleasure every single day. Orgasm, no orgasm, whether it is breath work and movement and just feeling some sort of sexual energy, some rawness of your primal you. Um,
Yeah.
that was my a really big devotion I made to myself, because I had to retrain that part of my brain, and I had to awaken that. And it was also part of a big part of my journey, as well as I have a lot of health issues that as a practitioner I've learned too, along with so many patients I've taken care of. All the different puzzle pieces that are needed in it, and pleasure is a missing piece for so many.
Yeah. I love how you said you made it a priority and a commitment. I think, for any major change or growth to happen, someone has to really decide that it's important to them and that they are going to commit to making time and following through and then celebrating all the little wins that they have along the way as they begin to see changes, even if they're tiny, tiny changes at first. But the first step on that journey is saying, I want this. I'm going to learn and I'm going to take action and really make an effort to ensure that this becomes a part of my life. Because at the end of the day, if you do commit to something like this, you're committing to bringing joy back into your life, awakening your body in so many different areas, and potentially saving a relationship as well.
Yep, absolutely. It's a
Mm,
commitment, really stems from self-love.
yeah.
A lot of times it just goes back to, our we've given and given and given, and now it's time to come back to our own self a little bit more, come back to our birthright, which is truly pleasure. And also incorporating, getting back to a lot of the basics: food, water, breath, movement. Those are our body's, love language. I call them our biological love notes. You know,
Mm.
that when you nourish your basics, you're not just surviving, but you're reconnecting to your power and your fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely felt like after my divorce, there was my own personal journey of exploring and trying things I'd never tried before. And it almost was like a bit of a spiritual reawakening and definitely a sexual enlightenment. And it was fun and exciting and there was like even a little bit of sadness that it took so long into my life to get to that point to have the freedom and let go of the shame and guilt and just explore. But I think that it shouldn't take having to get divorced to have that happen. And of
Yep.
course, if you're in a relationship, it helps if both partners are uh, on board to play and explore and try new things and communicate with each other and keep an open mind.
Yep.
But I think that the concept that you reach a midlife and it's just okay and acceptable to say, well, my body's changed, so I won't be doing that anymore is
Yep.
such a sad way to look at it. And it's really not true.
Yep. Yep. And that there there's no one size fits all, and that as you keep going along and changing, that you're just listening to your body, and that, whether it's a partner or yourself, that you're just, providing yourself with a place of grace and compassion and acceptance, and knowing that you're shut down possibly because you were protecting yourself.
Hmm.
And that it was, and so there's all just, all different ways to find yourself, back home to yourself, piece by piece, breath by breath. All those little small wins are celebrations, because to create neural change pathways in your brain, you need to create a habitual change patterns. You have to create, patterns, and a lot of times it's taking out, you're no longer the victim or the critic, and you are now, the person that is returning to your inner self and inner child of true, self-love.
Yes.
Pleasure's a
Yeah.
part. So, I always tell, so it's like kind of one of those things where, you're a teenager again. So, you have
Yes.
you have a new playground, and your playground has a lot of wisdom in there, and it's been through a lot. So it needs to be nourished,
Mm.
and it needs, new foods and new movement and new exercises, and it just needs new little upgrades along the way of understanding what your body needs. And so, yeah, so it,
Yeah, and I love how earlier you called it the yin energy. Like instead of looking at it as it's older, slower, not working the way it used to, it's looking at it as it's evolving into a new energy, but it's not placing that energy with a negative valence.
yes, absolutely. And that's kind of the Oriental medicine component of the transition, to the menopause is truly, is seen as a beautiful spring. So with
Mm,
spring, before you have spring, you have winter. So there is some death, right? There is some grief, but with that, emerges a beautiful spring. And our spring though can be 4 to 15. There is a long time period that we have, to navigate this, and it's exciting that so many more people are being able to talk about this, because
yeah.
pleasure is something you want to also experience, like you said, when you're 20, but we didn't really know about it because we were taught to perform.
It's so true.
Yeah, just
Yeah. And as you get older, not abandoning yourself in order to provide the performance joy to the partner. You're not performing for them, learning to let go of that need to be the one who provides an experience to the other and seeing it as a co-regulating, loving give and take is really, it's a whole transformation in the way you look at the sexual experience.
yes, and knowing, okay, we're getting older, so put your hip on a pillow. You have to make shifts, you have to make angles. Positions matter. All of that kind of stuff is again going back to communication too. To because that, like you said, that experience. You can actually have them, you can take them on a beautiful ride when you can tap into your energy field, and you can do the whole body, orgasm experience in a truly healing space too, whether you end up crying or shivering or cold, or like all the emotions that can come from it, because a lot of our emotions do get stored in our pelvic area. And that's why
Mhm.
breath work and, breath work focusing on pelvic area is a very important, component, in this work.
I love that. Yeah, I'm really excited for in future sessions for us to talk about. I'll go into detail with some of these different exercises. Maybe right before we started talking, you showed me you had that ball that you put behind your back. Can you show us that and tell us what that is?
Okay, so this is the Corgus ball. The Corgus ball is multifaceted. It is something that you can use to sit on your just on your pelvic muscles,
Mm.
help stimulate your body. You can also, what I do a lot is I roll on it, and it can help just move my digestion and any kind of stagnation I have in my uterus area as well. So it does a lot. It's great for like lymphatic work, which is a huge component because that's another huge component we'll go into later, is the lymph system of pulling and helping to detox our hormones. So this also is huge for that. But then you can also use it as help put your hips in a different location too during sex. So it's also it can be used in lots of different ways, but really truly really helps the pelvic floor muscle and helps to a lot of areas that are too tight because we've had trauma. So it helps to loosen and helps to also strengthen in different spots. So
Huh.
it's a great ball to have. I think everyone.
Very cool. What is it called? A Corgus ball?
Yep, it's a Corgus ball.
Okay. Oh, we'll put a link to that in the show notes so that people can look it up from here if they
I'll
want.
probably do a video. I'm sure we'll roll around on the Corgus ball to show you really how to do it. And you can also use, I have another a tighter ball that I use that actually I sit on that helps with more with, especially women that have like a little bit more painful sex component that needs to help release
Mm.
trigger spots of the muscles. So I also have that too that I'll show you. And then I also have, I'll have some hormone biohacks down below too, with just some tricks of the trade of what you can do naturally for your progesterone, your testosterone, your estrogen, your DHEA, and just kind of help and your cortisol, because those are your big focuses of really supporting those. I'll also have that down there too for just some added information.
Okay, I love that. And yeah, Melissa and I are very excited that we are starting a group on a website called Go Collab. And the group is going to be for women in midlife. And it is going to focus on the emotional changes that take place, the physical changes that take place, and create a community where people can share, ask questions, share wins. And we will be doing a lot of education that relates to a little bit of what we talked about today, and then a whole bunch of other things as well. Do you want to tell them a little bit more about what we've talked about?
Yeah, I just want to say how honored I am to be in this space. Uh, working with a lot of patients, just really discovering that there's just that, patients just need a little bit more information to really make that empowered move. And I feel so honored to work with you, Lee, in this process, and really just giving people a holistic approach from the nervous system, to the daily mind shift work that needs to be done. And we're all in different spaces. So it's going to kind of, have different groups for different sources that you need. Sometimes you don't need much, and then there's times when you need more intense someone to help you walk through things, or just more classes and more knowledge. So this community will have that opportunity for you to kind of find and navigate whatever you need. But I'm so excited to, I guess, share and build a community where women can feel safe, and women can ask questions, and we can learn from each other because we're all going through this, so we all have the same questions. Someone is experiencing some of whatever you're going through, and we're not alone. We're in a time when communities are online now, and in order to keep those going, you have to be present. And so I'm here to nurture this community through education and connecting with speakers, or information from all different aspects of what different women all need.
Yeah.
So just, yeah, I'm ready for the ride.
Yeah, I really am excited. I feel like when I went through my divorce, I was a little isolated. And what I feel like as you go through any midlife change, whether it's divorce or menopause or empty nest as your kids are leaving the house. If you have other women who either have gone through it and can share some of their experiences or the things that help them go through it a little bit more gracefully or see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, it just helps you keep that hope and keep that forward momentum. And yeah, that's what we're hoping, along with education, to provide for people.
Yep. Oh, it's great. A safe, sacred space full of like, celebrations and also clearings. Clearing
Yes.
no longer suits us and upgrading to the next version of what we need. So yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
great.
really exciting. So this group is just starting. We are just building it out right now. So we will put some links in the show notes, and we will be speaking about it in more and more interviews coming up with more tips and examples of things that you can be doing physically and emotionally, mentally, just to help on this journey. So. This was wonderful, Melissa. I am so glad that we did this. This is the first of many, and there was so much good information as a starting point, and I look forward to us doing this again.
Yeah.
Um, Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This was a wonderful conversation with Melissa, and hopefully, we will be having a lot more conversations like this here on YouTube as well as in our Go Collab group. And we will keep you guys updated on the progress and where to find us there. And we are going to be doing a lot of exciting things in the near future. So, I hope to see you joining us and participating in many different ways. For now, have a great day and thank you so much for joining us.